What's going on, everyone? We have got a new intro, and I am pumped up. Football is back, Tags. Are you ready for this, man?
So incredibly ready, you have no idea.
Hey, well, welcome into the FantasyPros Football Podcast. My name is Kyle Yates, and I am your host. I'm joined, as always, by Mike Tagliere, and you can find and follow both of us on Twitter at KyleYNFL and at Mike Tagliere NFL. We've got one of my favorite people to chat with on the show today, and that's Jake Ciely, of course. He's a senior writer for The Athletic and can be found on Twitter at AllInKid. Jake, how's it going?
I'm doing good. I wasn't sure I was the guest when you said one of your favorite people. I was like, did I miss the right show or what's going on here?
Well, to be fair, he did say one of my favorite people. He did not say one of Tags' favorite people. But
that's certainly
we'll
fair.
stick with that.
I found out recently that you can quote friends as much as I can. So if that's the case, then you jump up into one of my favorite people. That's just how it works.
I would bet actually more, and just so you know, as a reference to keep a little bit of noise in the background for Barkley, Friends is on TV right now.
What episode?
It is the one where Rachel tries to drive the Porsche, or actually does drive the Porsche.
And has the outdated license.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well,
Wow.
hey, I was going... What, Tags? What do you want to say?
You guys are out of control with these Friends references already. I mean, I've watched that show once in its entirety, and it was good. I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't like it was not The Office. Let's be real.
That's right, because it's better than The Office.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
You guys are
I'll say
terrible.
that it's better than The Office.
And now everybody's going to stop listening to the podcast.
Yep. And for those who are still here, I was going to announce a winner for our 7,000 review giveaway. That wrapped up, guys. We are now at like 7,170 podcast reviews, which is just insane. Thank you so much. I was going to announce a winner, but Dan messed up big time, and we won't have that until tomorrow. So tune back in for that. Woody. But guys, we do have a new giveaway going on that I want to make sure that you guys know about. It will include a signed Clyde Edwards-Helaire Chiefs helmet, and immediately I can see it going across Tags' forehead like a billboard of how he's going to try to enter and get this giveaway. A $200 gift card for Pristine Auction, a $200 gift card to Porter Road Butcher, a package of fantasy football goods for your league's champion and last place loser from Trophy Smack, and a 1-month subscription to Fubo TV. We are going to give a bonus to the winner too if they are a subscriber to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/fantasypros. The bonus prize will be an additional $100 Pristine Auction credit. To enter, head to fantasypros.com/contest and fill out the form there. Just leave an honest review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher for the podcast and use the form to submit your screenshot of your review along with your screenshot of your YouTube subscription to qualify for the bonus prize. This giveaway will go on until the end of the month, guys. So again, to enter and get more details on this big prize package, just head to fantasypros.com/contest today. All right, guys, let's move on to some news items here. I would just want to touch on these really quickly. James Robinson, a undrafted free agent rookie out of Illinois State, was listed as a starter on the Jacksonville Jaguars Week 1 depth chart. So this is on the heels of Raekwon Armstead, who was kind of this hot waiver wire pickup already after the Leonard Fournette trade. He went back on the COVID/reserve list. So let's touch on this backfield super quick. Do we want to roster any of these running backs, Tags?
I mean,
pretty much answers it. All right, we're gonna move over to.
I don't really know at this point. Honestly, I think we've gone through like 4 different running backs that we've talked about. The one constant here is Chris Thompson. I don't know if there's much sleeper appeal here. I don't think this team's going to be in scoring position a whole lot. And clearly they're going to have some sort of timeshare. Chris Thompson, Ozigbo, Robinson. It's a complete mess. So I don't think any of them are must-owns, but, snagging Ozigbo or Robinson for your bench, if they're available, sure, you could put them there and kind of see how it works out in week 1. But, again, this is a team that's going to be a lot of negative game scripts.
That's a very good point, and that's something that I want to mention here, because even if you do add James Robinson and he becomes a clear-cut starter, it's not like he's walking into 18 carries a game or anything like that, right? With a negative game script, 10? Max? 12? With very limited opportunities to score. So it's just expectation management here. If you do add James Robinson, he could be the clear-cut starter. But I think Chris Thompson is the guy that I want to own out of any of these if I'm forced to, and that's only in PPR leagues. So additionally, guys, Mike Gesicki is not listed as the starting tight end on this Dolphins roster. It's Durham Smythe, who is more of a blocking tight end. So what the heck do we do with this news? People have been drafting Mike Gesicki as a low-end tight end 1. They're going to need Gesicki this year, right, Jake?
Yeah, I don't get to praise James Robinson. You just skip right past me for that. That's cool. That's whatever.
You don't get none of that. We don't want to waste time on that.
No, actually, I don't understand. I'm with you. I've had Chris Thompson all off season. I just want to throw this out there because I do want to comment. I am on James Robinson 100%, only because if he takes the job week 1, I think he's better than Zigbo by far in the passing game.
That's fair.
And
yeah.
Look, I don't want somebody in the Jacksonville backfield, but we wanted Leonard Fournette when he was getting the majority of touches. So I'm going to go after the person that could potentially get the majority of the touches. I don't think it's going to necessarily happen, but if it does, you don't want to be in week 2 and spending $60 to go get James Robinson because it happened in week 1. So don't expect a lot, but go take that lottery ticket before it's too late. For this situation, means absolutely nothing to me. One of the things I tweeted out yesterday, it's the first time I ever did it. I did that little guy hiding behind the wall tweet when he's peeking out and saying something. The depth charts are the PR team. They're not the coaches. The coaches aren't giving the full depth charts. We've seen it last year. We've seen it years before. It means nothing. And especially when it comes to Gesicki, who's essentially kind of like Austin Hooper for the Browns, the third wide receiver, it even means less.
Yep.
I just go right past it, ignore it. Don't put any stress or worry into it.
They absolutely need him. You're looking at Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, and then Jakeem Grant.
Isaiah
Bowden,
Ford, maybe?
who just got traded, right? Isaiah Ford, maybe. So, yeah, they need Gesicki this year. I'm not looking too far into this news. Additionally, guys, Damien Harris placed on IR after having surgery on his injured pinky finger. He is eligible to come back after 3 weeks, though. That's a new rule with this specific season, right? IR is not necessarily the entire season. It's only 3 weeks now. So they signed J.J. Taylor, a rookie out of Arizona, who I really liked in the scouting process, guys, but he's back to the active roster. But he's mostly James White insurance. That's the type of role that he is. He's a pass-catching small back. Think like Tariq Cohen. So does this move, specifically Damien Harris being placed on IR, does this move Sony MIchel back up the rankings tags?
It has to. Apparently, the Patriots are talking about easing him in. I don't even know what that means at this point. James White is going to get 4 or 5 carries a game. That's a given. It seems like Rex Burkhead's actually going to have a role early in the season, which, I mean, we should have never forgotten about him because he wouldn't have been on the roster if he wasn't going to have some sort of role. It did help that when Brandon Bolden opted out for the season, I mean, it cleared up a few carries and less, there was a little bit more certainty. But this is a backfield clearly you want to avoid if possible, just because Cam Newton's going to get a lot of those goal line touches that these other running backs would have, including Sony MIchel. Now, is he more efficient with Cam Newton under center? Potentially, yeah. But I mean, we have to remember that the offensive line is also going through some changes. They had a player on there, the right tackle, opt out for the year. So there's a whole lot going on with the Patriots, a whole lot of uncertainty. And I don't know if this is a team that you must attack. But if you want to put in Sony MIchel as like an RB3 just to get a decent floor out of a guy that's going to have 12 to 15 touches, that's fine.
I mean, does he even get the guaranteed 12 to 15 touches? Jake came into the room today recording, and he said Rex Burkhead season. So, Jake, do you think this is even a guarantee that Sony MIchel sees 12 touches?
I don't think it's a guarantee, just because it's funny. I was joking about the Burkhead, but they like using him. I think it's just more the fact that this goes similar to the Jaguars, but at least we know in advance. Like the Jaguars could still potentially have James Robinson as the lead. Or, hey, it might be Zigbo. He's a power guy. That actually complements Thompson better. But all that being said, at least that looks like it might be only 2 guys we have to deal with. This is the freaking Patriots and 15 guys we have to deal with. So just go get James White. We do it every year. Ignore everybody else and just move on. It's very simple. You have the answer every year. I don't know why people continue to try and play this game.
Right. All right, guys. Additionally, Mike Williams is reportedly going to be a game-time decision for Week 1. I'm not considering putting him in my lineup, even if he does play. Are you guys with me?
He's not playing. I was told he's going. I was told there's a chance he's out a month, and I believe that.
Yeah, I don't understand how he went from a month to potentially Week 1. I'm with tags, but I also am on Mike Williams now. Even I was already on him at a discount, and I'm on the entire Chargers passing game because everybody wants to destroy this team because Tyrod Taylor's all of a sudden the quarterback, acting like Phillip Rivers just didn't have his worst season to his career last year. So I like Mike Williams, but I think somebody, if you're patient enough, stash, or maybe somebody's going to get frustrated that he's missing first week or two, and then pick him up off the waivers.
You and I were in a draft the other day. It was like maybe last week, and I knew about the injury to Mike Williams, and I knew he was going to miss a game or two. But I think I got Mike Williams. It was an IDP draft, to be fair, but I think I got Mike Williams in like the 18th or the 19th round. I mean, people are like, I thought you didn't like Mike Williams. I'm like, I'm not big on Williams, but if he falls that far, I mean, a guy has double-digit touchdown upside. So at some point, yes, you do say Mike Williams should be drafted and kind of just sit there. You could drop him at any point if you want to. You didn't spend anything to acquire him.
Yeah.
We're talking about double-digit touchdown upside. AJ Green reportedly going to be a full go for week 1. Tags, how you feeling right now?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. I mean, they might ease him in, which is fine. And in a week 1, I don't know if you necessarily need to rely on him. There's some other matchups that we can exploit. Guys like Deshaun Jackson, Anthony Miller, those guys have fantastic matchups in week 1. And you might want to play it safe with AJ Green coming off that hamstring. And they also are going against the Chargers, who arguably have the best cornerback unit in the league, especially on the perimeter with Chris Harris and Casey Hayward. So I don't think you need to attack this matchup with AJ Green, but I also don't think that he's like the worst, like low-end wide receiver 3 play this week. But again, we're going to monitor his practice participation, what they say about him, and kind of go from there.
And then 2 minor transactions here. Marcus Mariota and Trey Burton were both placed on IR yesterday, but they weren't really fantasy relevant guys to begin with anyway. So we're just moving right past them, guys. We were talking before we started recording that we are tired of talking about values and busts and sleepers, and we're past draft season. Like we're all just drained, and we're ready for football to be played. So what we're going to be doing for this episode is we're going to be playing some fun games here. We're just going to be talking football, and that's what we love doing ultimately. So the 3 of us are just going to go around. We're going to play this fun game to start. It's called Who's the Next, and fill in the blank there, okay? So for an example, I will go to Tags and then Jake and ask the question, who is the next Miles Sanders? Okay, so this season, who is the next Miles Sanders? I'll give you guys time to think about this. A young running back who starts as a backup but could run away with the job by mid-season, okay? And I've got a few of these listed out, and we'll just go right down the list, okay? So, Tags, let's go to you. Who is the next Miles Sanders?
I mean, it feels cheap to say Jonathan Taylor because he's a guy that I think takes the job like week 1 against Jacksonville. So I'm going to go further down. I'm going to say it's J.K. Dobbins. Another guy that has a Jordan Howard was the starting running back for the Eagles to start the year. It was a boring 1-2 down back, a guy that doesn't contribute too much in the passing game. I think Mark Ingram's that guy. J.K. Dobbins is like the sexy new toy that's like we want to earn that job. And from what I've seen in camp, he looks fantastic. So I think as the year goes on, you're going to see Dobbins added more and more. I think you're going to see people dropping him actually over the first couple weeks because he's reported, I think he listed him as number 4 on the depth chart. That's not going to last that long, but he's the guy. I'd say J.K. Dobbins.
If he gets dropped, goodness gracious, pick him up, please. Jake, you were going to add something there?
No, I was just going to say that I kind of feel that unless Mark Ingram gets hurt, I'm out on J.K. Dobbins. I agree with Tags in the fact that he's the better talent now that at this point especially, and he should. I just, for what Mark Ingram does, people just love hating on Mark Ingram. He's kind of, you know what Mark Ingram's turning into? He's turning into Frank Gore. Everybody just wants him to go away, and he's not going to. He's like, screw you guys. I'm just going to keep doing what I do.
More receiving touchdowns last year than Christian McCaffrey. I'm just going to throw that out there, and then we'll move on. Okay, so Jake, who is the next Miles Sanders for you?
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of like Tag said, it's kind of easy, and I'm not picking on him for taking Dobbins at all. But it's easy to say the Dobbins. It's easy to say Taylor. It's easy to say Swift, especially now that he was hurt and missed time to start and might not even be out there for week 1. But Adrian Peterson being there makes me a little bit more hesitant that he might not be the Sanders because even if he's the lead option, the Sanders completely go away. So. You know what? I'm going to dig a little bit deeper and go with somebody that I didn't like as much as the community coming out of drafts, but I also wasn't that fond of the guy who he's behind or might not even be behind come week 1 for a split touches. That's Zach Moss. I thought Zach Moss got a little too much of the metric love, similar to David Montgomery last year. And I think David Montgomery's a good example and actually a good compliment or a comparison to make here is the fact that people sing Singletary and they assume he's a good pass catcher because people assume things about certain players. When you see a certain style or you see a certain player, they assume things. Singletary's average. So is Zach Moss. He's an average pass catcher, but he's better between the tackles, and we heard about the fumbling. So even if this is split 50-50 for week 1, I could see by week 6 it's all of a sudden the Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler show where Zach Moss is getting 60-65%, and now Singletary got kicked down to 30%. And at that point, even with Josh Allen rushing in touchdowns himself, Zach Moss is going to get those Frank Gore touches and plus more. I think it might actually be Zach Moss this year.
I love that call. Tags, do you think at any point this season we could be relying on Zach Moss in fantasy football as a consistent RB2 for your lineup?
As an RB2, it might be difficult without a Singletary injury, but I mean, I see a situation where it's a 50-50 split. And people just don't know which one to start. But if Zach Moss is getting the goal line carries, he's going to be the one with the higher upside every single week. So it's a team that's projected to win a lot of football games. I mean, I think that a lot of people are projecting the Bills to win that division. So I liked Zach Moss out of college. You know I did. He was my number 5 running back on my big board for running backs. So I definitely liked him. I like the landing spot. I think there's plenty of opportunity to go around here. So I actually do like this call, and I'm probably wishing more and more that I'd made that call than I did J.K. Dobbins.
If Josh Allen sticks true to his word and rushes less, which I'm not projecting, I think he's still going to be running quite a bit and should be up around the consistent rushing touchdown totals that he had in previous seasons. But if that does happen and Josh Allen is relied on more as a passer, that opens things up for Zach Moss to receive some significant touches. Okay, guys, who is the next Mark Ingram? A running back who may be very touchdown reliant. We literally just talked about Mark Ingram and saying that 5 receiving touchdowns last year. 9 rushing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns off the top of my head. Maybe even more than that.
I think he had more, yeah.
But on like 26 total receptions or even targets. I can't, whatever. So Mark Ingram drastically outperformed based on his workload last season. Who is a running back this year who may be very touchdown reliant?
Okay, yeah, he had 15 total touchdowns, 10 rushing, 5 receiving. I would say this is Aaron Jones. And I'm going to say this because Mark Ingram, I think there was just one game last year where he topped 15 carries, if I'm not mistaken. And that's going to be something that Aaron Jones is going to have to do. Now, fortunately, Aaron Jones is in the prime of his career, is in an offense where and the last 2 years, he has finished number 4 in this efficiency metric that I do in points over expected. He is ranked number 4. Like, he is very, very, very good at football, and he's highly efficient. It reminds me a lot of like an Alvin Kamara, where the guy doesn't need necessarily 20 touches to be an RB1 in fantasy football. So, but if Aaron Jones doesn't score a touchdown, I think he's going to let you down most weeks. So that's why I'm going to say Alvin Kamara is this year's Mark Ingram.
Aaron Jones. You said Alvin Kamara. Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones is this year. Oh, my bad. I compare the two because they're both so damn good.
Yeah, I don't.
Jake, really quick. As he said the prime of his career. All I could think of was Monica saying the prime of live. So okay, yep.
Here we go.
So now back to you. Here you
go. Let's look. I kind of wanted you to go to tags first because I wanted to take one of the people because I've ragged on Aaron Jones enough. That's the exact reason. I mean, the 1,000 rushing yards and the touchdowns to equal Derrick Henry was just kind of like that's the example right there. So he already was touchdown reliant. So I'm actually going to go with somebody changing teams. I've been, and I made a joke on Twitter. I was like, yes, I am definitely taking a victory lap for this one because Philip Lindsay got talked up finally last week, and I've been the guy sitting here like I don't understand. Like Melvin Gordon is the lead, Philip Lindsay is the backup. However, for me, the ADP should have never been top end RB2 guaranteed Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay all the way down at almost hitting RB4 value. Like that was just insane to me. I have him in my rankings only 7 spots apart. And I think part of it is Melvin Gordon is going to be touchdown reliant because he's always struggled between the tackles despite the fact he should be better than that. And if you look at what he's done in 1 year, hitting 4+ yards per carry, which that stat in and of itself is always, can be skewed, but at the same time, it does tell something when he's only done it for 1 year. And if you look at Melvin Gordon, I think it's going to be lucky if he's 60% of the touches at the end of the season. And for that case, his value is going to have to come from the touchdowns, especially if Philip Lindsay is going to stay involved. I mean, let's not discount Philip Lindsay potentially even getting goal line carries. I looked up the stat last year. Inside the 5-yard line, he converted 5 of 8 rushes for touchdowns. He can run between the tackles.
That's crazy. That's just not what you expect from Philip Lindsay. But yet, I mean, 1,000-yard rusher, back-to-back seasons, his first 2 years in the league. As an undrafted rookie, you think this guy's just going to roll over and let Melvin Gordon come in and take away his workload? I don't think there's a true ceiling here for Lindsay, right? Let's just touch on this super quick. I don't think there's a true ceiling here where Lindsay suddenly becomes a top 20 back. But yeah, completely, Jake. I was in agreement with you there that there never should have been that drastic of a difference in their ADP, and I was identifying Philip Lindsay as a value all offseason. All right, guys, let's move on here. Who is the next Le'Veon Bell? The top 6 running back in ADP who has the highest bust potential. I'll go to tags first. Again, who is the next Le'Veon Bell, this top 6 running back in ADP who has the highest
Does
bust
he have to be
potential?
Top 6?
Let's go top 10.
Okay.
Oh, if we go top 10, I would change my answer because I was going to say top 6. As much as I don't want to say it, I think I have to say Derrick Henry because he doesn't catch passes. That offensive line has been brutal, and if he takes a step back in efficiency, he's absolutely going to bust. But he's just been so dang good. It's hard to totally fade him there. But I don't think that we'd be drafting running backs as a top 6 option without you should not consider any of those guys a bust. But if you extend that a little bit, I think you would look at someone like, it's not past his prime though. A lot of young running backs up here for good reason. Nick Chubb might disappoint just because Kareem Hunt is really good at football, and I think this timeshare might be more, 60-40, 55-45 than most realize, and that could obviously drag down Nick Chubb, who wasn't involved too much in the passing game once Kareem Hunt became there. Now there's more pass catchers involved, a change in offensive scheme. They're going to throw the ball less. I don't know. I hate saying any of the top 10 are going to be busts just because there's a reason that they're there.
Well, if statistically someone is going to disappoint, right? And I think bust has this like negative connotation, really, where it's like finishing outside like the top 40, right? Like we're not predicting that at all.
Like, so disappoint when we're saying, is the better word.
Disappoint is the better word here. Who has the highest disappointment potential? So Jake, in the top 10, who would you say?
It's going to be, that's why I asked if we could go a little bit deeper. And you get number 10, like he gets in there. Kenyan Drake. It has nothing to do with the boot. I've just been continuing to say, I don't understand why everybody is ready to anoint Kenyan Drake as a definitive, no questions asked top 10 running back, because look, I think he can be more consistent than he was last year. But that would be 5 good games instead of 3. Like, that's the point. Like, even that's more consistent. He's Amari Cooper of running backs. He's Deshaun Jackson of running backs. 3 games, and that after the trade, not the entire season even. 3 games after the trade, over 60% of his value came in those 3 games where he scored touchdowns. I'm not saying he can't be better. I'm not saying he can't be an RB2 all year long. But because everybody's skewing this and not realizing the single-digit performances put up in all those other games, especially some really disappointing ones that people just want to overlook, Kenyan Drake inside the top 10 is just bananas to me. Like, and I don't even like Aaron Jones, but I'm taking Aaron Jones before I take Kenyan Drake. I'm taking Miles Sanders and Austin Eckler and probably Chris Carson. I don't get everybody's just ready to lock him in as he's going to be amazing all year long.
Well, to be fair, what do you think about that? I'm going to stand up for Kenyan Drake real quick, just because when he came to this team, that schedule he played was brutal. He had to play the 49ers twice. He had to play the Bucs in there. The Rams are not a bad run defense. He had to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, that was a brutal schedule. So for him to go through and actually play well in the games that he didn't play against those top-tier defenses with Kyler Murray struggling, and as much as nobody wants to admit it, Kyler Murray struggled last year. He was not great last year. He wasn't very good at all. But the reason I like Drake so much is because he is a true 3-down back. He can catch passes. He is the clear-cut guy there. Transition tag, they paid him a lot of money to be their guy this year. We're willing to trade away David Johnson. Waited at running back until they drafted Benjamin in the 7th round. The offensive line did improve this offseason. Their defense is getting better, which is going to allow for better game scripts. DeAndre Hopkins out there now. Like, defenses, I don't know if Kenyan Drake's ever going to see an 8-man front. I don't know if it's going to happen with how often they run 4 wide receiver sets. So I just think the efficiency is going to be there. I will admit, though, Jake, we've never seen him play a full 16-game season as the workhorse. So that's the part where the bust potential comes in, right? Where it's like, this guy can get hurt because we don't know how he's going to hold up to this workhorse gig. So I actually understand Jake's logic in terms of
no, don't put that logic on me. I'm not assuming injury. I'm assuming inconsistency. Period.
If he's healthy, he's finishing as a top 10 back.
Let me ask this question. So weeks 1 and 2, San Francisco 49ers and the Washington football team. It's so ridiculous saying that. So those 2 matchups right out of the gate. Okay, so Jake, you were not willing to draft him within the top 10. However, week 3, he goes up against Detroit. Week 4 against Carolina. Week 5 against the Jets. Those are 3 defenses that should be like huge blow-up games for him. If the price is right after week 2, are you going out and sending out trade offers to go acquire Kenny Drake?
Yeah, I always will. And, the honest thing about Drake was he had 2 decent games, actually a good game and a decent game against the 49ers last year. So it's not even like a defensive specific worry that I have. It just comes down to the consistency of him in this offense. And I'll compare, that's a good question because I'll compare him again one more time to Amari Cooper. I have owned Amari Cooper only via trade. I usually go for when people get frustrated. And then the thing is about Drake is, again, I will take him as my RB2 every single day of the week. There's no way on earth. I don't even tell, like I said to Dags, if you told me guaranteed right now, Kenyan Drake plays 15 games, I still don't want him as my RB1.
That's fair. All right, guys, let's move on here. Who is the next? Let's say Derrick Henry. Okay, so this fringe RB1, RB2, who has top 6 potential.
I mean,
tags.
If I want to cheat ADP, I'm going to say Clyde Edwards-Helaire. because ADP doesn't. Again, I talk about this all the time.
This might be the only time that you hear Derrick Henry and Clyde Edwards-Helaire mentioned in a comparison.
Yeah.
Because size-wise, that's not happening ever.
But he's a fringe RB1, RB2 by ADP.
Fantrax is dragging this one down in ADP.
Yeah, they are. All right, so I'll go further down. I'll say it's Miles Sanders. Basically, what you want is a running back in order to do that, most of the time they have to be a part of a top 10 scoring offense, and Miles Sanders clearly is that guy. Surprisingly, I was really waiting for it, especially when Miles Sanders suffered that lower body injury, whatever the hell it was, and knocked him out of practice for a little bit. I really did expect Doug Peterson to go out there and sign a running back. It didn't have to be Devonta Freeman, but another running back to add to this mix to say, okay, it's possible this is a three-way timeshare, but as of right now, it's Miles Sanders and it's Boston Scott. That's about it. So Miles Sanders is a guy that absolutely has top 6 potential with his prowess in the passing game and his ability on early down work behind this offensive line, which, by the way, did take a step back this preseason. They've lost 2 key members of that offensive line. I know they re-signed Jason Peters, but it did take a step back. But knowing that Doug Peterson continually scores points, they put points up on the board, Miles Sanders is the one.
Yeah. It's a good pick. That's probably where I was going to lean if you did take Clyde Edwards-Helaire and didn't come off of it. So instead of Miles, I'll go with somebody. It's not the next because he's already done it. I'm just going to say he's going to do it again, and it's James Conner at the Steelers. I think that you want to tell me 15 games. You tell me 15 games right now James Conner stays healthy, I'd draft him inside the top 10, and I wouldn't even blink. I would take him.
For sure.
Yeah. I'd take him in front of Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Kenyan Drake. I'd even take him in front of Chubb and Mixon. People forget that he finished top 10 in 13 games, and yes, that was when Ben Roethlisberger was throwing for 5,000 yards, but that kind of tells you he was throwing for 5,000 yards, and James Conner still beasted that year. He's just tell me he's healthy. And honestly, healthy 16 games, he might actually even push Derrick Henry.
I can definitely see that happening if he plays full 16 games. That's a huge question mark, though, and that's obviously why his ADP is down. He's a fantastic
But see, this is why we love Mike Tomlin, because he doesn't screw around. He's like, this is my guy.
Right.
End of story.
Right.
Yep.
Right. All right, guys, who is the next Odell Beckham, this wide receiver who could have a tough time adjusting to his new team? Who is the next Odell Beckham, a wide receiver who could have a tough time adjusting to his new team?
It sucks to say DeAndre Hopkins, but I think that is the only comparison that we can really make because it's a guy that was drafted in the top 2 rounds of fantasy drafts. He is still being drafted there. He's produced over his entire career, and we say, hey, he's going to a better situation, right? I don't know if we could say that. Deshaun Watson's really good at football. He was getting 150 targets a year. In DeAndre Hopkins, to be fair, even if he was still in Houston, I think DeAndre Hopkins would still be exact same ADP that he's at right now. There's obviously more weapons there in Arizona now. You have Christian Kirk, you have Larry Fitzgerald, you have Kenyan Drake. So, people are talking up Dan Arnold for whatever reason. But DeAndre Hopkins, it's got to be it. I don't want to say that, but he's the only one that you could draw this parallel to.
I think there's one more. You can say he's not on that level. Yes, you're right. There's not any even really inside the top 10 because there wasn't that many that switched teams that were already inside the top 10. So if we're switching teams specifically, the only other answer I think there might be is Stefan Diggs. And it just comes down to Stefan Diggs was a top 15 wide receiver with the Vikings. I would take that bet every single day of the week that he's not going to be. And ADP reflects it. Everybody reflects it. He's in the mid-20s, mid to low, some sites. And I think that's where he deserves to be, mostly because it has nothing to do with Stefan Diggs as a player. This kind of goes to the Aaron Jones situation. Extremely talented, but you're talking about somebody who just threw for 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. Even if you give him 3,525, Stefan Diggs still might not even crack the top 20 just because of what this offense is. And to be honest about it, I think this is one of the ones that I'm getting John Brown a lot. John Brown is going to, or after doing well last year, he now gets number 2 corners. Like, seriously, John Brown, why are we just kicking him aside to the curb all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's the low passing volume offense argument and the fact that you do have other options on this team, like John Brown, and Cole Beasley's not going away either, right? As much as it would be nice to have his target volume decrease so that way we could give more to Stefan Diggs and John Brown, they're all going to be kind of in the same range as far as targets at the end of the year. So to have Stefan Diggs jump up into the top 20, I just don't see that happening. I completely agree. That was the name who jumped out to me.
I'll throw a stat on top of that is that Stefan Diggs led the NFL last year in yards on passes that went over 20 yards in the air. He also led the league in touchdowns in those passes. He didn't score any touchdowns and passes that went under 20 yards, I want to say, last year. Josh Allen was the the third worst deep ball passer in the league last year. So going from Kirk Cousins, who was completing those passes, to Josh Allen, I'm worried about Stefan Diggs.
Did you have to specify deep ball? I think you could have just said third worst passer.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Who is Buffalo's coming after you, buddy? The Bills Mafia is real.
Hey, I talked up Zach Moss already.
at All In Kid on Twitter. Okay, who is the next Michael Gallup? This mid-round, under-the-radar wide receiver who could break out.
This one's weird. I want to say Tyler Boyd. I really do. But I'm going to go deeper than that because Tyler Boyd is, I don't know if I can call him mid-round, even though he is most of the time 7th-round wide receiver. Love him this year. But Jerry Jeudy is a guy that, you know, when we hear that stuff out of Ciely out of Broncos camp saying that no matter how high you're drafting him, it's not high enough. I obviously loved Jeudy in college. Like my favorite, he may have been my favorite wide receiver that I've watched come out of college since I started scouting players. He was pro ready, and going to Pat Shurmur's scheme, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. The Broncos released their week 1 depth chart, and it has Cortland Sutton, obviously, there's the wide receiver 1. And the wide receiver 2 was Jerry Jeudy / Tim Patrick, which means that Tim Patrick is clearly ahead of Deshaun Hamilton. He's ahead of KJ Hamler right now, who's dealt with injuries. Yep. So the way this works is that Jerry Jeudy is going to play in the slot. That is fantastic news because Pat Shurmur, if you go back to his days in Minnesota, even fast forward to what he did with the Giants, the slot is a massive part of his offense, and that's when we saw Adam Thielen kind of break out under Pat Shurmur. So I am excited about Jerry Jeudy, and I think that, you know, people consider him a number 2 option in that offense, but I think it's more of a 1A, 1B situation with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Totally different players, 100%, but at the same time, this offense may set up for Judy's success more than Sutton's.
Interesting.
Jake, how about you? Michael Gallup, mid-round, under-the-radar wide receiver who could break out.
I think we got a lot, honestly. I will say one thing, not to pimp my own article, but it kind of is like basically the theme of the first waiver column was all these number 2s, why aren't they more owned? And I mean, I could go through a litany of players that are number 2, so I'll throw 2 out and then stick on 1. It's Preston Williams and Anthony Miller. Both of these, I'll give the quick version of Anthony Miller. There you go. Weeks 12 through 15, top 15 wide receiver, and Allen Robinson was still top 10. Like, it's not like it came at a discount of the other guy. But I'm going to go with Preston Williams because I don't know if this was people have been on him, and then because of the injury, they fell back off, or the quarterback situation is kind of like everybody just was in love with Preston Williams 2 months ago, and then all of a sudden it's like, what happened? And now he's potentially ready for week 1. Preston Williams was the reason people didn't want Devontae Parker. They were so concerned he was going to take all of his touches and all that targets. Preston Williams, Anthony Miller, all these number 2s that are out there that people aren't rostering. Jerry Jeudy's a number 2. Mike Williams, if healthy, is number 2. All these guys going in the 40s or 50s of wide receivers. People are chasing 3s in passing games before we even talk about some of these guys, and it's just insane to me. So for what you were asking, that's where I would go. I felt Marquise Brown was too high on this list, honestly, to say that.
The guy who jumps out to me, and I think he was in the mid rounds, he was like wide receiver 40 in ADP, so around that range, Deante Johnson. Give me Deante Johnson. If we can get the 2018 version of Ben Roethlisberger, he comes back fully healthy. Goodness, Deante Johnson's going to explode this year. Who is the next
for that?
Go ahead.
If I could pick talent, I would pick Deante Johnson. My only concern with this is I have this feeling just because they all bring different dimensions. James Washington's deep ball, Chase Claypool, big body that doesn't need to separate. I just feel like we might be looking at the Seattle Seahawks before Metcalf arrived, and it's like a rotating carousel of 3 wide receivers to the number 2 every other week.
Well, Jake, you just brought my whole mood down. I was super excited.
See, I'm trying to get you the discount on Deante Johnson.
Okay, thanks. All right, thanks. All right, who is the next Cortland Sutton, this sophomore breakout wide receiver? This is kind of like, obviously, Deante Johnson could have fit in that criteria. So no round value, guys. Just who's the sophomore breakout wide receiver?
I just named mine,
DK.
So don't take it, Mike. Don't do it.
DK, it's DK.
Okay.
DK Metcalf. There's legitimate top 12 wide receiver upside. Like, you could be looking at DK Metcalf in 20 and 21 as being drafted as a top 8 fantasy wide receiver in fantasy drafts. I think that's a realistic scenario, considering both him and Russell Wilson worked out this offseason. Russell Wilson described their relationship as he's like my brother now, because they worked out this offseason through this on Russell Wilson's on his private field. So DK, we always knew that the ceiling was there with him. We saw flashes of it last year, and you've talked about it in terms of his red zone targets, and if a few of those get converted to touchdowns, suddenly we're looking at him a little bit different. And I mean, I know they brought on Josh Gordon, but Josh Gordon still hasn't been reinstated by the league. And even going last year, when Josh Gordon was with the team, I think he averaged, like, it was just like 3 targets per game or something like that. He wasn't a big factor in the offense. So DK is the guy.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to take Hollywood Brown. So if we're going that level too, I'm actually going to not take Hollywood Brown, and I'm going to one-up you, in my opinion. DJ Chark is the one who should be top 10 next year if we're talking about it, because he has number 1 alpha wide receiver ability. That's something I said when they drafted him, and it's clear from last year that he has that. And guess what? I don't care if it's garbage time. I don't care if it's Minshew mania. I don't care whatever you call this, but we know the Jaguars are going to be passing a hell of a lot. That's why we talked about the backfield at the beginning and said not really that interested.
Yep.
Like DJ Chark, if he put up 1,400 yards and 7-8 touchdowns this year and was, Allen Robinson with Blake Bortles, wouldn't be shocked one bit.
I'm not either. I wouldn't be either. I love that call with DJ Chark. DK Metcalf obviously tags. We've talked about it, that his red zone catch percentage was like 29%. And he still converted 4 of those for touchdowns. If that number goes up, if he can bring in 50%, we're talking about scoring opportunities galore, and a talented wide receiver like DK paired with a top-tier quarterback in the NFL. I think Russell Wilson belongs in the conversation of a top 3 talent at the quarterback position in the NFL. DK is a guy I want to buy into. DJ Chark was someone that I was going through and redoing my projections because I looked at Chark recently and I was like, oh man, I have him way too low. And I adjusted his target share for what it should be based on these other weapons. And he came out to be like my wide receiver 10. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. I got to back that off just a little bit. But the upside is absolutely there for DJ Chark this year, especially when you're now considering the fact that D.D. Westbrook is apparently like a 3rd-string wide receiver on this team. I don't understand it. Chris Conley's going to be starting. Laviska Shenault's going to be starting. No, the ball's going to Chark. Love the call there. All right, let's do 1 or 2 more here. Who is the next? Baker Mayfield, a young quarterback, with lots of promise who disappoints. There is a clear answer here, guys, so don't get it wrong.
I mean, it's Kyler Murray, right?
No.
No? I mean, I think it's Kyler Murray. I'm going to say that just because, like, Kyler Murray, the expectations are through the roof. And I know the ceiling's there, and that's why I have him ranked as my number 6 quarterback. But there's a clear path for him to disappoint, though. There really is. It's, Baker Mayfield last year, you look at Odell Beckham, they added him to the offense. They add DeAndre Hopkins, and we say, oh. Kyler Murray was like getting worse as the year went on. It wasn't like, he got better as the year was progressing. And I know that there was reportedly some sort of injury that he was dealing with, but if this defense takes a step forward, Cliff Kingsbury starts to have to change his approach a little bit to slow things down in order to, I don't know, not to put so much pressure on Kyler Murray. I'm not saying that he's going to, but I'm saying that's someone, because Baker Mayfield was drafted, I think, as the number 5 quarterback last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at quarterbacks that are being drafted as elite options that are not elite options yet, but people are projecting them to be.
Yeah, that's actually
fair.
where
All right, Jake, what about you?
I was going to go for the same reason. It's kind of like if you're talking what happened with Baker last year is the hype and the helium, everybody thinking everything's going to be great. That Kyler Murray fits that specifically, but I don't think he's going to bust like Baker Mayfield did. So, that's the conversation. The other one I would throw out for this, I'll go back to Josh Allen, because I'm going to paint the scenario here. Is let's assume, for one, I do like Josh. This is somebody that drafted a ton of Josh Allen last year. So this is coming from somebody that supported Josh Allen in fantasy already. So, but what I'm saying is, what if he's the same passer we knew? What if he still only throws for 3,100 yards and 22 touchdowns? What if? That's no improvement. That's going to be, okay, he's going to be hard-pressed to be top 7, because now let's talk about the rushing side of things. 9 rushing touchdowns. We saw Cam Newton is the only other person within a long time that was doing that. And then Cam Newton essentially did it for one real season, and then after that it was a mixed bag. So what if he loses 50 to 100 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns rushing? Now all of a sudden he's not even a top 10 quarterback, not even top 12.
Right.
And this is where we pay, this is a tough question as a whole, is the way that, it is, who's Baker Mayfield? So it's somebody inside the top 10 that you could see falling out for any given reason. Yeah. But I think Josh Allen I think he has the easier path to being irrelevant for fantasy purposes than Kyler Murray does.
That's fair. Those arguments definitely make sense. The one that I was thinking of was Daniel Jones. QB 14 at ADP. I was not factoring in that Baker Mayfield was going that high last year, which I forgot about, which is ridiculous. I was just looking at a young quarterback.
You're saying Mike and I are smarter than you are, is what you're saying, right?
No, I'm not saying that. Not in any shape or form. Okay, so the last one, guys. Who is the next O.J. Howard? Okay, now we can say a early tight end who could be completely ineffective. O.J. Howard was going. I was shocked. I just completely, apparently, blocked this out of my memory, or I don't even know what. O.J. Howard was going off the board as a tight end 4 last year. Okay, so Who is the early tight end who could be completely ineffective this year?
Before you answer, Mike, can we say not Tyler Higbee because it's too obvious?
Yeah, that's the thing. I was going to say that's the obvious answer, but I'd have to go down further because in terms of like what I look for targets. I'd have to say it's a top 10 tight end because if you go to the top 5, I'm not going to say any of those guys are going to be busts just because I'm projecting them for over 100 targets. But you get down to Rob Gronkowski and Austin Hooper. I mean, pick your poison there. Gronk reportedly might be number 3 in snaps on the Bucs. I mean, I know he might get some red zone work, but that's going to be extremely disappointing, and it happens to be on the same team, the Bucs. And by the way, like very, very quietly, apparently O.J. Howard is having a great camp, and that's something that we haven't heard out of Bruce Arians so much. He was always like pushing O.J. Howard. Maybe that's why Gronk was brought there to help the kid develop. But Austin Hooper also not a guy. Austin Hooper is not going to be ranked in my top 12 tight ends probably almost any week.
Oh, you're nuts. I love Austin Hooper. I think that
Oh, no, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Are you serious?
Yes, because he's the number 3 wide receiver.
Are you serious?
We talked about it before. He's the number 3 wide receiver. That's what he is. He's going to have the same production over 16 games he had in 13 games with the Falcons, which is still top 10. Actually, well inside the top 10. And I'll happy to be wrong on this one, but I have a lot of Austin Hooper. I will continue to have a lot of Austin Hooper. I think they brought him in. I don't care about Njoku, who they're still talking about that might be getting surpassed by Harrison Bryant already. This is a 12 set with Stefanski. Like, I love Austin Hooper this year. I guess you can say he's a plant your flag player for me, I guess, at this point, because I'm the only guy that seems to want him inside the top 10. So I'm not saying Austin Hooper. I agree with you with the Gronk situation. I think there's an easy one inside the top 5. Is Darren Waller, because we already saw the situation where Darren Waller does fall out of the top 5 and potentially busts altogether. It was the middle of the season last year when Hunter Renfrow really became a thing. And I don't think Renfrow is really even in the mix. He's the 3rd wide receiver with 2 rookies on the outside, but that's the point. You have Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards, both uber-talented wide receivers. You have Renfrow trying to play slot when he's out there. When he's not, it sounds like it's going to be Ruggs when there's only 2. But you also have a backfield that wants to get Jacobs more involved, whether it's even running or passing. And by the 2 cuts that they made, well, a cut and a trade, it looks like they were serious about getting him involved. It's just, would you say, Mike, you said path to targets. Well, if we're talking about top 10, outside of Higbee, the obvious one, to a path of lost targets, we've already seen it partly happen. If Waller finished the season with less than or fewer than 100 targets and fell into like the 80-90 range, I wouldn't really be shocked. I don't think it's definitely going to happen, but he seems like the obvious answer for that situation.
Tyler Higbee, tight end 7 off the board. Jared Cook, tight end 8. Evan Ingram, tight end 9. Rob Gronkowski, tight end 10. I'm not really excited about any of those guys.
What the hell is Jared Cook doing there?
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I've been saying all offseason. Goodness gracious. Okay, let's move on to a new game here called Fantasy Over Under. All right, so Tags, you were the one who had this idea. This is super fun. I can't wait to hear the answers here. So I created some lines here, all right? Just call me Vegas. So I created some lines, and we're looking at these players that could finish at this spot in fantasy, okay? As far as their fantasy finish, excuse me. So, for example, DK Metcalf finishing as the wide receiver 18, which is kind of in line with their ADP, okay? So now I'm going to throw it to you guys, and you say you have to take the fantasy over or under.
So, Jake, don't look at your ranking. I don't even want to look at my rankings for this game. I just want it to literally be like, what do you think, right off the top of your head? Yeah. Because there's a lot of things that factor into that.
Okay,
so DK Metcalf, does he finish over or under the wide receiver 18?
Go ahead, Jake.
Under. Well, further down than 18, because that's always a weird thing to say, like is under lesser.
Wait, yeah, so
you said
so
under.
is the over?
Yeah.
Yes, over would be
under
17
18, because I don't think Tyler Lockett's going away yet. I was going to bring this up before when Mike was talking about him. It wouldn't shock me if DK Metcalf did, but what if they just keep him in the role that he is? Oh, what a surprise. They're using him how he should be used instead of trying to do what other teams have done and make a wide receiver do what's not in his skill set. And right now, he's still not that great of a route runner. There is a chemistry between Lockett and Wilson that everybody wants to knock, but it's been how many years now, and it continues to be also in the end zone and red zone. I love DK Metcalf's potential, but I'm going to take the under just because I don't think he eclipses Lockett for one more year.
I'll say over. I think the Seahawks throw more this year. That defense, the state of that front 7 is pretty ugly. I know that they beefed up the back end, but I think this team will be throwing more the second year under Schottenheimer, so I will say over.
Tags and I were talking about week 1 matchup, Atlanta versus Seattle. Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones up against,
Shaquille Griffin and Quentin Dunbar.
And Quentin Dunbar. Yeah, they're going to go off. Okay, here we go. Tyreek Hill finishing as the wide receiver 3. Jake, over or under?
Wide receiver 3.
As the overall wide receiver 3.
I get I push this because I'm gonna say under because I don't see him getting past Adams and Thomas, and that means just one more wide receiver has to jump in front of him. Oh, like Julio, maybe Hopkins. Yep. Hopkins doesn't miss a beat and actually even maybe is more efficient with Kyler Murray. Or maybe guess what? Allen Robinson pushes for that spot because he's just going to see 80 billion targets a week. So I'll say under just because I can't get him. If you would have said over under number 4, I might have said over to get him in the 3rd spot, but not. I can't get him. Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah, I'd probably say push. I don't think he should have been drafted as the wide receiver 3, but I think it's possible he finishes as the wide receiver 3 just because of, the boom weeks that he has might make him the wide receiver 3. So I'm with Jake here. I'll say under.
All right, Aaron Rodgers finishing as the QB 10. Over or under?
Under.
Jake.
Under.
Over.
Under. It's he was already under the 2 years ago. His numbers weren't that much better, and I've actually brought this up as an argument for Aaron Rodgers to be like a value quarterback this year, which I still think he is. That 2 years ago would have had him at like QB8 or QB9. But if you look at the numbers 2 years ago versus last year, it's only a few more 100 yards that he passed for, and then a rushing touchdown. Like its quarterback is so flat that unless Aaron Rodgers jumps back in a big way, he doesn't run as much as he used to. Like I can't put him. I can't do Aaron Rodgers, and I've campaigned to get him at a value this year.
I think over. I think people, myself included, probably underestimated the fact that it was a new offense. Rodgers is a very timing-based quarterback. New options out there. He's got a lot of the guys returning that he played with last year. I think there will be chemistry. And when he's played more than, I think, 14 games, he's never finished worse than the QB9. So given the fact that he is a veteran, he's a stable presence, he may not be worthy of being drafted as a top 9 quarterback, but I do think he finishes higher than the QB10.
Okay, let's look at QB 12. Joe Burrow finishing as the QB 12 rookie year. Over or under?
Under. I don't even think this is a conversation, honestly. Like Baker Mayfield's rookie season wasn't even QB 12, and we're hoping that he just does that and potentially break records and all that type of stuff. No.
Well, Baker didn't start until
Baker didn't start.
He didn't start
week
until
3
week
or 4.
Yeah, still wasn't even from week 3 on. There's no way I'm taking Joe Burrow to finish inside the top 12. No way on earth.
I'm probably going to say lower as well, but I think there's definitely a possibility. I think I have Burrow ranked as my number 14 quarterback.
No.
Yeah, I have him right there too.
5% chance.
So 12's a little rich for me, but I would put him in that range. All right, guys. David Johnson finishing as the RB26. Over or under?
Oh, that's a good number.
David Johnson,
that's
over.
A really good.
Over. I'm finally taking over. I went under on all these. I'll go over now, mostly because similar to James Conner, just tell me he plays 15 games. We can hope and believe everything that's been said so far is that last year he just wasn't 100% for the entire season since that he got nicked up, and he looked pretty good initially to start last year, question mark. So, 90-95% David Johnson, what he used to be. Bill O'Brien's going to shove the ball down his throat until he passes out on the field because he's going to make sure that he's right. So that's the only concern is if David Johnson gets hurt again or is hurt, period. So I'll say over.
Yeah, that's my concern is that Bill Bryan's going to treat him like Carlos Hyde, and he's not Carlos Hyde. I'm going to say under on this one. If you were to say on a game points per game, I'd say over RB26, but I'm factoring in some games missed here. I don't think that the Texans are. I don't think they're a contender this year. I really don't. I think that they're a bad football team, and I think that Bill O'Brien is going to get fired this year. And David Johnson could miss games because the games mean nothing. So I'm actually going to say under RB26.
Let's stay with the Houston Texans. Brandon Cooks finishing as the wide receiver 32. Brandon Cooks is the wide receiver 32.
Over.
You gonna explain? Or you just...
I'm gonna let you go ahead and see if do we agree?
No.
Oh, all right. So what do we dislike about Brandon Cooks outside the fact that he's now finished as a top 24 wide receiver with 3 different quarterbacks, including Jared Goff?
Are you asking, or are you just like? I don't know what you're doing over here.
I'm asking you. I'm talking to you, Jake. Talk to me. I'm not one of the girls on Tinder.
It's never been Tinder. Don't pull that. Not here.
All right, I'm gonna. Is this where I'd stop messaging you back? Is that what would happen?
No, this is where I would actually delete your contact and block your number. Brandon Cooks. I love Brandon Cooks. I'm the one that's been saying he's been to 2 new teams and put up 1,000 yards both times, but He's got Will Fuller. He's got Randall Cobb. And I continue to say Randall Cobb could easily lead this team.
Randall Cobb? That's who you're worried about?
Randall Cobb could easily lead this team in targets and receptions because Kiki QT was only a thing because Deshaun Watson needs that role in the offense. What do Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Kenny Stills do? Not Randall Cobb's job. I'm not worried about Randall Cobb as like Randall Cobb is going to be the number one. The leading team in receptions and targets is that's obviously one of these two gets hurt, Will Fuller or Brandon Cooks. My point is it's not DeAndre Hopkins anymore. There's not an alpha here where somebody does what nobody else can do. That's all it comes down to. I like Brandon Cooks. I've been supporting Brandon Cooks, Mike. It's just Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, Randall Cobb, David Johnson. Apparently Akins looks great. I just don't see anybody really pushing for top 20, even if everybody stays healthy for 15. Actually, I think everybody staying healthy for 15 games is going to be what really kills Brandon Cooks from potentially being in there.
Okay, let's move on. Cooper Kupp finishing as the wide receiver 17. Over or under?
It's tough.
Can we do a caveat? Can we just find out what Sean McVay plans to do this year?
If we can, that'd be great.
I mean, look, let's be honest about it. I'll say, if betting, I'll take the under because of all the options around him that I feel better about. Because what I'm kidding of, I know you both know this, but potentially people listening don't know, is the fact that Sean McVay up until week 11, if I'm getting that Cooper Kupp, top 10. That's the thing. If we're getting the last couple of weeks where all of a sudden Josh Reynolds starting getting involved, we've heard great reports about Van Jefferson, and I'm not scared of those guys taking his job. I'm scared of Sean McVay pulling Cooper Kupp off the field and only giving him 60 to 70% of the snaps like he was seeing late in the season. And that has nothing to do with the tight end situation because then Everett was hurt too, and he was still only seeing that. He still caught touchdowns, but I don't know what Sean McVay is thinking. That's what makes him so good. He'll change his plan week to week. So it really just comes down to it. I'll play the odds and take the under.
It was like, honestly, I can go either way with this one. I'll take the over just to disagree with Jake, but I agree with everything he said there. But Cooper Kupp, Jared Goff is better with Cooper Kupp on the field.
Yes.
Like that's a real thing.
Yeah. And
I've actually went back and I was writing the week one primer, and Cooper Kupp was someone I actually dissected the numbers of what he did in the slot versus what he did in the perimeter. He was just as good on the perimeter. I know he did it a lot less frequently, but I think it's a little bit overstated by some, including myself. I was saying that I was worried about him playing on the perimeter. I broke it down. I looked at it. I'll say over just because he's a very competent football player. He's done it before. And a lot of people in fantasy, what we want to do is we want to continually say that wide receivers, oh, this guy's going to break out. This guy's going to break out. Well, guess what? There's only so many spots in those top 18, and Cooper Kupp has proven that he's been able to do it on multiple occasions. So I'll say over.
All right, I got two more. Henry Ruggs finishing as the wide receiver 35. Over or under?
Go, Mike. Do it.
I'll say over. I'm not drafting him as a top 35 wide receiver, but I think there's going to be some boom weeks in there that carry him to the top 35 finish.
Yeah, I'll go solidly over. I love Henry Ruggs, but to your boom point, Mike, one of the things I continually have said about him is Deshaun Jackson, but good Deshaun Jackson, the 2 good years of Deshaun Jackson, where it was only 4 frustrating games, not half the season, not almost 10 games of frustration. So the boomer bust is a great call there, but I think you're talking about the number one on this team with Bryan Edwards. I could see Ruggs pushing 1,000 yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns. The unfortunate thing, I agree, like what Mike just said, there might be some weeks where it's 150 and 2 touchdowns and then 30 yards, 40 yards, 20 yards, and then another 100 yards and a touchdown.
All right, last one here, guys. Amari Cooper finishing as the wide receiver 14.
So easy under. 100% under. And it's not even a thought. And I don't even have to think twice about this one because Michael Gallup outplayed him towards the end of the season, was more consistent than he was towards the end of the season. They added CeeDee Lamb, which you could argue. I would make the argument. I do tiers. Mike knows this. I had him as one of 3 wide receivers in my number 1 tier. So if you want to make the case for Judy, if you want to make the case for Ruggs, who was the other one in that tier, that's fine. If you want to make the case that Lamb was the best, the point is he's an exceptional wide receiver. You have 3 people. It's the fact that they don't need Cooper to be top 15. That's what makes the Dallas Cowboys offense so dangerous this year. I kind of lean away. I think this is an easy under for me.
I'm going to say over. And I'm going to say over. No. Well, no, this one is more to do with you can make the argument of not drafting Amari Cooper as a top 14 wide receiver. You can make that argument 100% because he's been inconsistent throughout his entire fantasy career. But in the end, it's all about those performances that he gives you when he does, right? And Amari Cooper is a top 10 NFL wide receiver. Like that's not a question. And people talking about Gallup like Jake just did, I understand. I was actually a Michael Gallup cheerleader in college, and I loved him coming into the NFL. And then it's like now people are starting to say Michael Gallup's the better receiver. No, he's not. He's not at all. Michael Gallup is a different receiver than Amari Cooper. He's not an alpha. Michael Gallup is a great one. He reminds me of Jeremy Maclin in a lot of ways, where it's like a guy that's going to produce, but I think he does need someone else in the field to be the fantasy player that he is. And now you add CeeDee Lamb, I think it takes away from Gallup more than it does Cooper, because Cooper is a guy that continually gets separation, especially when they play indoors on a track. That dude's feet are just stupid ridiculous. But so when you factor in the injuries are worrisome because he hasn't practiced a little bit. Like they've been keeping him off to the side. And McCarthy says basically they're just treating him like a veteran and just saying he doesn't need to practice at this point. That's a little concerning. So injury could definitely contribute to it. But if he's healthy, he's going to finish top 14. I'm not saying that that you need to draft him as such, because there is going to be a lot of volatility there.
All right, guys. Final thing here before we get out of here. We're going to play a little game called Place Your Bets. Okay, so we've got football happening on Thursday. The NFL season kicks off. I want your locked and loaded answers for these questions. I got 4 of them. Okay, you ready?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Who will be the offensive rookie of the year?
Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, can we call this the non-Edwards-Helaire? Like, who picked something else?
No, because I love him, Jake.
No, everybody does. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the obvious choice.
No, that's actually not true. So, Yates, can you vouch for me on this one? Literally, like 2 months before the NFL draft even happened, I sent Yates a message, and I said, Yates, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is my number one. He goes, number one what? And I said, number one running back in this class. He's like, wow. Am I lying about that?
No, that's true. You
All
were
right,
on.
then,
you were on CEH. From
I'll take the cheesy, easy way out and take the quarterback then, and I'll say it's Joe Burrow.
Yep. I was about to say someone's got to say Burrow. It's a quarterback award, guys.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Who will be the 2020 NFL MVP?
Mahomes.
Can we just do non-Chiefs? So
what's the fun in that?
No, so instead of Mahomes, all right. Well, you know what? I'll go completely off the board. I won't even.
I'll give it back up too.
No, I won't. No, I was gonna say I won't even go Lamar Jackson. I'll go completely off the board here. I'll go. Why not? Dak Prescott. We'll have some.
I'm gonna go with a guy. Hold on a second. I'm gonna go with a guy that legitimately has never received an MVP vote, and it's stupid. Russell Wilson.
Yep. I was about to say, as soon as you said never received, I was like, I know exactly where he's going. Russell Wilson absolutely deserves.
So
to
damn
have.
good.
All right, fine. Let's go.
But Dak,
right,
Dak is a phenomenal choice there. I love Dak this year.
Real quick, guys, how many wins do the Seahawks have if Russell Wilson's not the quarterback?
Oh, like
5,
4 or 5.
They'd be in the running for the first pick, right? Maybe not
Giants,
that bad.
the
Okay,
Bengals,
Pete Carroll's a good coach, but yeah, that's fair. So top 5, we'll call it top 5.
Yeah, not if they don't have the Legion of Boom anymore. They're not. Yeah, they're not. They're not up towards.
I hate predicting schedule because it would change us so much.
It's
but
real bad.
I think the Giants are lucky to win 4 games this year.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, who will win the Super Bowl this year? Jake's answer is obviously not the Giants. Who will win the Super Bowl this year?
It's been a while since we've had it. I say we got to repeat. Why not? You got to be the champ. You got to beat the champ. And I would love to say the Ravens just because people know I love Lamar Jackson coming out of college, but that's just that team is. I don't know if he's quite ready Super Bowl wise. I don't know. The Chiefs. I can't see anybody knocking them off. I would love to pick somebody. You know what? For what I would passionately love is to see Drew Brees get one more and leave on top. But
that was my pick. Yep. You can't steal it though.
No, I'm not taking it. So I'm still taking the Chiefs.
All right, I'll take Saints.
Chiefs Saints. That actually could be a Super Bowl matchup.
I would love it.
That would be an amazing Super Bowl matchup. Okay, last one, guys. Who will hold the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft?
Oh, the Jags.
Yeah. You might get ready to see the Jags going right back and taking another quarterback and Trevor Lawrence.
I was just about to say, let me rephrase this. So I was about to say, let me rephrase this. Who will draft Trevor Lawrence next year?
But wait, real quick. So what did they do? Let's pretend that Gardner Minshew plays like pretty well this year, but they still win 4 games. That's it. What do they do? Do they trade Gardner Minshew at that point?
Yeah, I think so. I think they could get. It all depends on what he does.
Hold on to potential. I mean, it's kind of like the Eagles of old. Or like even what the Patriots used to do and cycle them out. Maybe they do trade them, but maybe not until they absolutely have a situation where somebody loses their quarterback in preseason next year.
I am personally rooting for Gardner Minshew to ruin this for them. I really like everything they're doing is tanking. So I want him to ruin that. I would love to see Gardner Minshew win like 6 or 7 games.
That would be
all right,
so
guys.
Amazing. So hold on. You want to know why I laughed before,
okay,
Kyle?
Go ahead. Go.
I'm so glad we made it through this entire show. I want to thank you both personally that neither of you said that annoying ass phrase of "let Russ cook." Thank you.
But I will say, Mr. Unlimited. Is that okay?
Sure.
Is that okay, Jake?
That's fine.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for today's show. Tags, any final words before we get out of here?
Oh, man. We're going to be doing a start and sit show tomorrow. Like, what is happening? Football is here, guys. Get excited. Damn it.
All right, huge thank you to Jake Ciely for coming on and chatting some football with us. I needed this fun little break, guys. This was a good show. Don't forget to find and follow him on Twitter at AllInKid. You can also find and follow Tags and I on Twitter at KyleY NFL and at Mike Tagliere NFL if you don't already. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. From Mike Tagliere and Jake Ciely, I'm Kyle Yates, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Make sure to check out our featured videos as well. Also, make sure to click that red subscribe button to get notified when we post videos in the future.